So today we have on the diversity amplification two amazing leaders from Airbnb. I have Kadia and Keziah. Did I get that right?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Second time is good. So again, if you can intro yourselves and we can jump in over there. Just full disclosure, Kadia doesn't have a social media profile, and yet I was able to get one piece of information as my background. I'll leave that for the end. So why don't you
Oh
intro yourselves?
no. Yeah.
Kadia, why did you go first?
Okay, sweet. So I'm Katia Mashal. I started my InfoSec career 12 years ago. I started with electrical engineering and then transitioned to IT security. Information security is called in Germany, and in Austria we refer to it to IT security, which can be sometimes confusing. But yeah, and since then I've been working in different startups that here in Silicon Valley, and for the last 3 years, I've been with Airbnb. I started as a security engineer and recently transitioned to an engineering manager. So yeah, and I've been focusing on vulnerability management at Airbnb for the production environment.
Got it. Because your turn.
Yeah. So let's see. So I had very little background in computers in high school. Didn't really know much about programming, computer science at all. But during college, I took intro to computer science, I think my sophomore year, ended up really liking it and then switching majors to it my junior year. So I primarily I would say, describe myself mostly as a software engineer in terms of I truly was trained in software development. But I had friends who were very, very into InfoSec, would talk to me about it. They got me to take the security class at school, which I thought was really interesting. And then when I joined Airbnb as my first job actually out of college, the security team was hiring generalists. And so here we are. So been at Airbnb for 5 years now. Started off in the production security team, which is our infrastructure security team. And now I am in vulnerability management with Katia.
Got it. So one of the, I was about to say myths, but it's probably not a myth, but it's the one that is most alluring for people from the outside is, oh, I want to be on the red team. I want to be this good hacker. But that's the one that actually gets a lot of publicity outside. And yet, as somebody kind of digs in, I mean, there's everything from privacy to compliance to SOC, and there's this long. So what advice do you have for people on the outside? Do they come in with something in mind, but how do they keep their mind open, knowing that their personality or their interest might shift after they get in, right? Versus the single track mind of, okay, I want to be the good hacker hat. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
so take this first.
Yeah, sure. So actually my mindset here is, I don't know if it applies to everyone, but I was thinking, it's always great to find a way to break systems, but how do you actually make sure that you can protect a large user base? Like for instance, in our day-to-day jobs, we do not care about just breaking, but we want to make sure that we also have mitigations that stop you from different attacks. So the interesting part about it is, yes, you learn, I mean, hacking and finding loopholes is great, but making sure that you actually build mitigations and focus on hardening is very satisfying. So I recommend individuals, when you find a security hole, to think about what could I do to actually make sure that no one on the wrong side can take advantage of it. So that aspect, I think, opens up more doors, and then you can get into maybe compliance or a purple team, or potentially even go to a vulnerability management team or infrastructure security team where you focus on hardening and not just on one aspect of security.
Great tips. Keziah, your thoughts?
Yeah, and actually, at first, I didn't really think I would be interested in security when people talked about it, because I actually was not interested really in breaking very much. That just I really like software engineering, really like building things. And it was only extra exposure that it's this, contrary to what people say, security isn't only about being the hacker or doing red team. You can actually, what I like is building things, and you can tackle infosec from hardening, building, automation, preventing vulnerability side. And so I guess, yeah, it's important to have an open mindset, I think. and maybe like make choices in your career depending on like what you think it would be valuable to learn. Like I started off doing like generalist things and working on the production infrastructure team. And then after a few years there, I realized actually I'd like to be more closer to like more the traditional like InfoSec side, now that I've really had a lot more experience on like the building hardening side. So I think just be willing to sort of like change like what you're doing depending on like what you have been mastering the last few years, or maybe it's like, oh, now that I've been on this team, I'm a lot more exposed to privacy, and I think that's interesting. And then I guess focus on skills that are really applicable to almost all areas of security, which I think there are like many of them. Just like building a security mindset, focusing, like thinking both sides, building and breaking, and then it'll help you kind of have many options depending on your interests.
Yeah, I mean, that's great tips. And sometimes you kind of get fixated on one and then you lose sight of the other.